TradeTheNBA.com. This is John. This reports for the 23rd of January. Nice little uptick. Brought us back over the 50%. We really weren't seeing any white MBI indicator reading suggesting, the nice little hiccup, um, any activity that would drive things lower other than just the general sell signal. So turn up of the magenta, which appeared intraday, and then the complete collapse of orange could turn around and produce this pretty strong buy. Gets us right back up to the exact same spot, the 4,008 resistance. It's just too many unanswered questions. I still believe the ping trade literally is probably more to the upside than downside at this particular stage, simply with so many people believing all the negatives that are out there, and I think some of the mysteries that we see from treasuries and things like that, believing the Fed is just going to capitulate and roll over. NQ almost identical, even worse from an MBI white reading though. Down to 2, getting pretty weak, and that strong move of DOC green over cyan. That's a positive. So there's some elements there that point to that. Of course, TLT is way out of range given what the Fed has been doing. But there's also been a huge flight into treasuries just because of the increased yield and the security of that. So some of that's a little bit skewed just because people want safety from what they think is impending disaster. And if there were impending disaster, we would not be seeing oil at these levels. Literally, consumption would be heading lower. The forecasts are all for a record year for consumption in 2023 here. So that's a bit, again, one of those added confusion factors. And that's part of what's going to lead to a lot of this back and forth that we're seeing. What's not in question, gold, and the demand for physical gold has just been fantastic, and that had been building throughout all this dip. I kept saying, and just give it a little bit of time, and we were going to see. And sure enough, it's the same thing I was saying about cryptos as well. Euro also, no reason. Once the Fed backstopped them from the U.S. side, there was nowhere to go but up for that. Doesn't mean that the Eurozone is doing anything productive. It's not. And the U.S. is not falling apart at this particular stage. Here you have Bitcoin. You see the explosion. I suggested we would head to that 22.8 prior algo level. And sure enough, pretty strong move. I mean, that's a strong DOC sign into red. But again, this wasn't very difficult. It was just a matter of working through. And in my view, the downside was so limited that really, what was the problem with it? Whether it becomes conventionalized, I think it's becoming more stable in some cases than some of the regular currencies, which is exactly what the crypto coins have always claimed. But it had to have some significant use. And again, that transability to actual commerce, still an obstacle, but probably less than it had been in a long time. From 50K, it was pretty clean. Boom, down, and then turn all the way back around. So that's the beauty of a mean reversion market, and we're literally just a little bit over that halfway point of that spread. So if this was the 50% mark from this overall level, we're just at about that stage. So that's kind of what was reflected there, and that's a pretty easy to see that turnaround. We saw it build in the pre-market during a 5K at some softness, but then classic buy setup here as the green crossing red from below, the orange continued to drop. We had the crossover of the steel, the strong MBI magenta over, and produced the double run. And every little bit of weakness in between there were really very soft setups that all just returned new buy configurations. And then the strongest being towards the latter part of the day, just blowing through all those previous algo levels and ending the day right back at the peak. So that was pretty strong performance. And I would think that we're going to probably see another push back up towards that little over 4,000 number. And of course, if it makes it over the 4,008, I would expect the 4,023 before we hit some kind of sell side resistance. Not getting to that point, though, would be a huge negative, particularly if the readings persist on that. So definitely worth watching at that particular stage. But as always, I will keep you updated and see you on the Skype chat. Have a good one. Trade well.